All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. I am Nina from Inspire and the moderator for this session today. And if you have missed last week's webinar, my colleague Marina will now post the link to the on-demand video into the chat box. However, you can also scan the QR code that you can see on the slide. There you will also find the link to the upcoming webinars as well. So in today's session, we have with us Lexmark Process Architect Ted Perkovich, who will talk about the IoT side of enterprise architecture, but more specifically about Optra IoT and how they use it at Lexmark. But before we get started again, just some basic housekeeping rule to run this webinar as smooth as possible. The presentation will approximately last about 30 to 35 minutes and will be followed by a 5-minute Q&A session. If you have any question throughout the whole session, please don't shy away from the Q&A box, which is just at the bottom of the screen. And of course, we will try to get through everyone's question. But if in case we run out of time, we will definitely respond to your question by email. So without further ado, Ted, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So again, my name is Ted Perkovich. I work in the Connected Technology and Ventures group at Lexmark. Been doing process improvement, process architecture, business architecture for about 30 years now. And I've been with Lexmark just over a year. Today, we're going to talk about how we're using Inspire as part of our Optra IoT offering. We'll go through a little bit about Lexmark ourselves. We'll delve into what is Optra IoT, so you have an understanding, a contextual understanding. And then we'll dive into the specifics of the models that we're building within Inspire, the different types of models, and then how we're actually using them. So what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then we'll finish off with a question and answer. So many of you may be familiar with Lexmark already. Obviously, most of you are probably aware that we make printers, sell them all over the world. What you may not be aware of is that part of our business model is also to manage those printer fleets on behalf of customers. And part of that management is the ability to have those devices connected via IoT back to our mothership in Lexmark to be able to manage those fleets, okay? Part of what we've been doing in the past few years is to branch off into additional lines of business, additional complementary lines of business that pertain to our experience and offer additional offerings into the marketplace. One of those being what we call Optra IoT. And what is Optra IoT? Well, collectively, think of it this way. It is a technology platform that allows a customer to connect their devices and realize the benefits of digital transformation via implementation of a variety of use cases that help move the needle on business outcomes. They can be such things as device management. You probably have heard of predictive maintenance before. So these things are enabled by the platform themselves. In order to do that, we package the platform, the technology piece, with what we call accelerators, prepackaged dashboards. And in our case, what we're going to dive into today are business process templates that we use with our customers to help stand up and operationalize the platform within their environment, right? All coupled with our consulting services that help drive the implementations with our customers. So let's take a look in more detail about what we're doing specifically within Inspire for these business process templates, okay? The first thing that we're doing is we're putting together a series of what we call end-to-end models. If you're familiar with process analysis or process architecture, this should not be foreign to you, if you would. They are models that depict the overall flow of business processes in one way, shape, or form, and at some level of abstraction. And we're doing it in groups, if you will, of processes to make them comprehensible and readable and consumable for not only ourselves internally, but also our clients, right? And so we're dividing those along different logical segregations and business domains, be it service delivery, device management. And we use this as a basis to align with the customer on what's going to be involved in the implementation and operationalization of these processes in order to take advantage of the IoT platform, right? The other thing that this does is this is a baseline set of models that we will use and replicate for our customers to make their own copy of these models in Inspire. So, you know, it provides a common basis for us to have a repeatable implementation methodology and allows us to confirm process scope with our customers. If you want to look at one of these in detail within Inspire, you can see how we've laid these out. There's no rocket science to this. We came up with a series of nomenclature and how we wanted to represent these that we feel is fairly consumable, but also useful, right? And so these are built within Inspire. We'll maintain these over time. And honestly, as things change over time, we'll maintain them as well. But the point here is that in some way, shape, or form, a given customer may have not previously performed some of these processes before. So they're going to need to know how to go about implementing, let's say, failure, you know, maintaining these ML models within their environment, right? So this is a basis that we use for common definition, common language with our customers to identify process scope, okay? Coming back, next level of detail is within there for each of these processes within these end-to-ends. We also have developed and pre-developed these business process templates, swim lane models. Many people call them swim lane models. We call them process workflows. And they're depicting the tasks and roles that comprise that activity. You say, okay, this is great. Where'd this come from? Well, as I said, you know, we're launching this product and this platform based upon our experience in doing this for our own clients, right? So we've put together internal subject matter experts to pre-populate these artifacts within Inspire and come to a client and say, here's a list of these processes that we know you're going to have to stand up. And here's a good way to go about doing that, right? Here's a baseline process that we can adjust in working with our clients, right? These are contextually bounded by the process activities. And these provide the basis then for our customers to create their standard work instructions that apply to these tasks. Part of what we do with our customers also in our engagements is to use these models to help drive variation down to the lowest level possible. In other words, we don't want to have 14 different ways that we decommission a device. We want to have one set of tasks that pertains to decommissioning a device. And if there are variations, we embed those variations in standard work instructions, okay? What does this look like in Inspire? Let's come over here real quick. So you can see, you know, we have created our own nomenclature. You know, we have our own color schemes and how we lay these out. These can be any way that you want to do them. We have stored these off as templates within Inspire, so it's easy for us to recreate these over time, right? And we came up with our own standards pertaining to these. So you'll see that there's a nomenclature for decision points, starts and ends, and how we depict ourselves passing off to other processes within these fairly standard stuff if you're familiar with swim lane modeling, right? Then let's go back over here. So the other piece of this is that we're not just creating static diagrams, right? This is, excuse me. So this is the basis for also creating a database, right? So we're not just creating a picture, we're creating the architectural linkages between these objects to be able to report on them over time and ask and answer architectural questions, right? So we're establishing a link between the graphical component within InSpy and the element within the database. And we're also linking the elements together in the desired architectural linkages that we want to enforce and answer our architectural questions for. How does this work? Let's take a look real quick. So coming back over here to our analyze execution model, there's a cool ability in here called Free Lucy. So if we come in here and we show the form for this, you'll see that we're able to capture all kinds of attributes regarding, a particular process task. And it knows that this is a process task because we've already linked it to the process task element. So it knows analyze actual results versus predictions is a process task. That's nice. How do we link this with other architectural constructs? Well, it's really very simple using Free Lucy here, right? So Free Lucy is a tool that allows you to do these linkages graphically and very, very quickly and easily. So what's the first piece of this? We wanted to make sure that we link this to the right actor. So if I come back over here real quick, say, okay, this task is performed by a data analyst, right? So we're going to come back over here. Hang on 1 second, folks. Let me move this. We're going to come back over here. And all you do is you drag and drop. And it knows where it should be, right? It should be on this node over here. And in this case, there's more than one relationship type. So we're going to select the right one here. So this is the data analyst performs that particular task, right? And there are other ones too, right? So we want to associate this with the process workflow of which it's a part. So if you remember, this is analyze model execution up here, right? It's part of that overall workflow. We want to link that as well. So this is how easy it is in Free Lucy to create these architectural linkages. And once we create those and commit those to the database, then they're available to be reported on very easily and very quickly, right? Let's come back out of here. I'm going to back out of there real quick. Okay. So what are those questions that you could ask? Well, you could ask, what are all the different tasks that are performed by a given actor or role? And you could get that information back from the database. You could ask, alternatively, the other way around, what tasks are performed by the data analysts, right? Or if you've associated business applications with your artifacts here, with your tasks, you could say, okay, well, if we replace SAP with Oracle, right, what process activities are affected, right? And have that information at your fingertips rather than going off in a 2-month study to figure out that information, right? So we put a link down here. You can take a look at this at your leisure. There's a video out there on YouTube that explains the usage of Free Lucy. Really, really cool tool, really necessary to be able to do these linkages and do them quickly and efficiently, right? So that's what we're doing. Well, why are you doing it? Ooh, this is all good stuff, Ted, but how are you using this stuff? Well, if we go back to those end-to-end models, we're using those in a number of ways. One, we're trying to establish a common language, a common lexicon between sales, service delivery, and the operating model that the customer is ultimately going to be operating. How many times have you, as a customer or a client, utilized a third-party integrator, and the salesperson calls something one thing, the service delivery people call it a second thing, and what actually gets implemented is a third thing? We're trying to avoid that. So This provides a common lexicon. When we say device management, we mean this. When we say create device templates, this is what we mean. And we use the same terminology in the sales cycle, in the service delivery, and the operating models, and then actually what actually gets delivered in terms of these process models with our customers. The other thing is that a customer may not contract and want to implement all business processes associated with operating this platform. They may only be doing a certain piece of it. So down here in the lower left-hand corner, they may not be biting off and doing things with ML models initially, right? And doing predictive maintenance. So we're able to quickly scope and tag these processes as either being included in scope or not being included in scope, and use this as a communication vehicle directly with the customer so that we're speaking the same language there. The other piece that a customer needs to understand is that if they haven't done this before, there's going to be processes that they have to stand up. There's things that they haven't done before that they're going to have to do. Case in point, if a customer hasn't built and maintained machine learning models before, they're going to have to go out and get data scientists that know how to do this, but they're going to have to stand up the processes to maintain these, right? So part of this is an education to them. Part of it is helping them define how they're going to operationalize these, but also understanding that, standing up this platform also means that the data coming off of it may feed other processes internally, or may have impacts to some of their processes. If you take an example of dashboards here. So we're going to include a number of different dashboards that come with this product and can be in the scope. Well, a customer may not have all of the data that's required in order to support, the dissemination of that information in the dashboard. They may not be accumulating it right now, or they may not be accumulating in the right way. So we're going to have to examine their existing processes. For example, when they create a case, they may have to record the actual full serial number rather than just the last 5 digits in order for us to perform the necessary analytics that they want to get out of this to drive their business outcomes. So common basis for doing a number of different things. And this is just one piece of the pie, right? So this is just the process piece. There's other components that comprise scope, talking about different data integrations, ML models, dashboards, et cetera, right? We're also using these, obviously, to physically enable our customers to operationalize themselves to use this. We're not starting from a blank screen. We're bringing pre-populated templates to bring into formal workshops with our customers and refine rather than starting from a blank sheet. We know what they're going to have to do. We have the experience in knowing this. We've stored this information off in Inspire as models and persistent models over time, right? So not only is it, a basis for them to understand what they have to do, but it also provides a basis for them for their OCM, right? And then part of this too is, well, what else are you using this stuff for, right? It's nice that you have these wonderful diagrams, they're wonderful, but how else can they be used? And in our view, you're not doing it just to draw diagrams, you're using it to get to an improved state. And that improved state includes understanding how other communities utilize or can utilize this information. Think of it this way, right? Those workflow models can be used to drive and build and execute test plans, right? The models themselves also can be used in configuring, right? We've had customers who have used these workflow models and understand the various different roles in them to drive security roles within SAP, for example, and how to configure those, right? Obviously, from a training perspective, these models can be used, packaged, and leveraged in knowledge transfer and formal training, right? And ultimately, we intend to make these models available to our own customer support. So when somebody, when somebody calls in with a problem, we have the ability to call these models up and understand the business process context in which they're having a problem, right? It may not just be a technological, snafu. It may be, well, your process, that you're not following the process that you're supposed to be following, right? Think of it this way, though, these persistent models over time are there to be reused, and they really help an organization enable agile changes to competitive pressures, business imperatives, things that they just want to do and take advantage of, So part of the impetus behind this is not just, creating a diagram for diagram's sake, but rather understanding the content behind that, the linkages behind these artifacts in the models, maintaining that over time, and being able to reuse it to answer architectural questions. And we can do that by having these stored off in Inspire themselves and being able to leverage those for our clients, on behalf of our clients, and stand those up for our clients, right? So a little ahead of time, so we have plenty of time for questions. Talked about, excuse me, how we're capturing things within the platform, Inspire, to develop these different types of models, create the different architectural linkages that we're talking about, and then ultimately how we're using those with our customers in our scoping, establishing a common lexicon, helping a customer stand up the processes that they will need to stand up in order to leverage the platform and realize those business outcomes from their IoT investment, if you would. And understanding that it's not just creating process diagrams for process diagrams' sake, it's understanding that they can and should be reused in other communities of use. So a little ahead of schedule. Nina, back to you for question and answer.
Thank you for this fantastic presentation, Ted. Okay, let's move on to the Q&A part of this session. We already have a few questions in, and the first question is, how much effort does it take to keep your architecture up to date?
That's a good question. So right now, from our perspective with the content that we've built for Optra IoT, right, the effort is fairly minimal. There's only a couple of us on staff, right? But we don't have a whole slew of content built out yet, right? As the number of models matures, as the content matures, and we expand that, obviously there's not only the maintenance themselves of the models, but the governance surrounding it, right? Now, to that extent, internally within Lexmark, we have hundreds and hundreds of models that we built in Inspire. And we have a formal governance procedure. We have formal standards. So we're still a bit immature, I would say, in the growth curve in the transformation products group that we work in here for, end customers for Optra IoT. But we'll be mimicking the same maturity cycle and governance that goes on internally within Lexmark for our internal models, right?
All right. And the second one is, how many models have you built?
Again, coming back, repeating myself a little bit. So we only have a handful of models right now pertaining to Optra IoT that will grow over time. And because we are building the practice and building the product set out. But right now we only have a handful, probably less than 30 or so. Specifically around the process piece that we're looking at today, right? There are other architectural diagrams. If you were in attendance last week with Mark de Beaumont, there's a whole slew of architectural pieces where we're documenting, the architectural componentry, if you would, within the Optra IoT platform within Inspire as well, right? So Process-wise, just a few. Collectively, as a whole, we're going to have a whole slew as we move forward.
All right, perfect. So that was all the question for today. Thank you for answering all of it, Ted. And also thank you everyone for attending the session today. As you can see on the screen, here are some useful links. You can visit our website, book a demo, or find the full webinar series landing page. And on this, I wish you all to have a very nice day and hope to see you again in the upcoming session next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.